And we're back, TK Pod. I don't even know if I can hear myself in this microphone, but it sure looks like we're good to go. So here we go. Um, Welcome in, podcast. The TK Pod is back with another recap this week of Fittest of the Coast. Wearing the hat. Hard to see on there, but that's like a skeleton riding a wave, surfing. That was the theme this year. A teal blue orangish color. Um, what a weekend, front to back. We'll go over it here in totality, but fun time. Want to jump on here and recap how we did, first of all, and go over everything about the event, in my opinion. If anybody is randomly finding this, don't click on my other videos other than maybe the Fittest of the Coast preview. But there could be some people who search Fittest of the Coast and find this, and you end up being like, "Who is this joker?" I'm just a guy who competed in the RX male team division, got 10th, so that's cool. So if you're looking at competitively the team men of the entire thing, you have the 16 pro teams and then 9 teams in front of us. We were 10th in the RX male division. Uh, Pretty good, pretty good, right? For anybody that doesn't know and follows this podcast regularly and isn't just coming because they found Fittest of the Coast on YouTube or in the title, um, I was in a competition this past weekend, CrossFit. It's what I do, and it was in Charleston, South Carolina. Competition was technically Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday and the first half of Saturday was an individual portion of the competition, the individual divisions. And then middle of the day, Saturday, it switched over to teams, and the teams ran second part of Saturday through Sunday. I was in the team division, and this is going all the way back to the qualifier, back in, gosh, I don't know, October, maybe even September. Um, we qualified for the RX division in the very last place. So um, we were the last team above the cut line when the scoreboard closed. Now, as with every online qualifier for a fitness CrossFit competition, rarely are you going to get 100% of the people who qualified to end up being the actual teams that sign up for the in-person event 2 or 3 months later. Teams decide not to go. They surprise themselves and never thought they were going to qualify in the first place, and they had no plans of going. Something happens, they have to back out. Teammate gets hurt. One of 100 reasons, but you're usually going to end up with a couple backfill teams, right? So teams that are just beneath the cut line are going to have a chance. And that's exactly what happened here. It's exactly what happened in Wodapalooza. We were one of those backfill teams for Wodapalooza a couple weeks ago. We would have still had a spot had everybody taken their spot. We would have been the last place qualifying team there. But after all that was said and done, I went back and kind of manually checked this on the leaderboard, and we were technically like the 25th ranked team off the leaderboard, the qualifier leaderboard that was actually at the event. So that's a 25 of 32 teams. Looks like 2 teams ended up signing up, but then not showing on the actual day of, or potentially 2 of those teams, like, I don't know, got hurt or something. 30 teams ended up competing over the weekend, and me and my partner Spencer got 10th place. Pretty good, right? It was exactly our goal. It was like a lofty goal that we had. Um, Wodapalooza 2 weeks ago, our goal was kinda to, as a backfill, originally was to just make the top half, top 20 out of 40 teams, and we ended up taking 7th. That was crazy. After doing so, that shifted my thoughts on what could be potentially possible for this competition. Granted, I had a totally different partner. It was team of 2 instead of team of 3, different workouts, all those things. But the goal was like, hey, I think we could push for top 10. Talked about last week the difference between a game day athlete or a in-person event athlete versus a qualifier type athlete. And I'm very much so a game day athlete. So knowing that I was 50%, in some cases could do more than 50% of the work in these workouts, I had a good feeling that we could compete. and get up there in the top 10 and maybe do some damage on a couple individual events, which we'll talk about here in a second. Um, but yeah, it was fun. I'll go through like the entire travel day down there. That was hell for me. Um, the quality of the different aspects of this, like venue, the operational side of things, what I thought. Not that I've been to 100 different competitions and have a lot to compare to, but um, I'll give my thoughts on what I can. Vendors, all those things, lodging, stuff like that. And then I'll talk about specifically what could be better and kind of uh, specifically in the workouts towards the end here. But so yeah, we came in ranked 25th out of 30 teams that were actively competing. First day was a not a bad workout for us. There was 4 individual workouts, like 4 heat heat times, call times that we had. 2 of those 4 were double scores, which puts us at 6 scores for the weekend. There are positives and negatives to that sort of system and function, and that's kind of at the end that'll talk about it. Um, so the first one was a workout that I actually don't think I didn't think originally would be, or I didn't really consider it to be a bad workout for us. But then you look at the totality of the 5 or 6 scored events, and I was actually like, "You know what? That actually might be one of our bottom 2 events." Nothing that we couldn't do. It was a torque tank, basically weighted sled push, 120 feet, I believe. Um, Handstand walk, 60 feet each in a follow the leader style. So in 20-foot segments, I go, you go, I go, you go, I go, you go. And then that brought you to back to your starting mat, which had 2 70-pound dumbbells and 2 70-pound kettlebells on it. And this was the entire workout. It was and how fast can you do 80 synchro deadlifts, um, and then handstand walk back to the tank, and then tank back to the start mat. And those were really inconsequential parts of the workout, um, in a way. Uh, Deadlifting, especially at high volume, potentially my worst thing in CrossFit. Doesn't matter that it was 140 total pounds and it was kettlebells and dumbbells. Volume deadlifting, not my deal. Just not my thing. We ran it in sets of 10, quick interchange switch, so that you could go back and forth between the grips of the dumbbell and kettlebell. Ooh, first shot of the show. And it was a game of seconds, right? You look at the leaderboard and in a 1-minute window, you've got basically other than the outlier top teams and the outlier couple bottom teams, you've got 25 out of 30 teams finishing in like a 60 to 80-second window. A lot of that would, and in CrossFit, that's not a lot of time when you start to take the transition time, the break time that you take in a set of 80 deadlifts, and then, speed on a handstand walk over the course of 6 partner lengths. Um, Volume, partner similarly, like pretty similar to me in ability as far as deadlifting goes, probably a little less in the handstand walking department. We had to go slower on the deadlifts than most teams, even though we got there first. And then coming out of that, uh, he struggled to handstand walk a little bit under fatigue. Shoulders were blown up, all that stuff. So, um, we ended up in a 19th place and not great, right? Like we don't love that. Knew it wasn't gonna be one of our great events, but thought that we could, like, maybe be middle of the road on it, and 19th is obviously, 15th would have been right in the middle. Um, but to start the weekend, not a bad deal. We had never met each other, like, a little bit of this is communication and synchronization and stuff. We had literally met each other 3 hours before this event happened, and, so, decent way to start the weekend. And again, in perspective, like, if the leaderboard was gonna shake out exactly how we qualified for this thing, we would be in 25th, right? And that's just how it would be. So, um, started with a 19th, and that was one of the single score workouts. Each day had a double score workout. The day one, or actually both days, the double score workout was second. So the second workout of day two was probably the most brutal workout of the weekend. It had 2 scores to it. This wasn't so much as 2 scores, it was just back-to-back events with no, real rest. Um, you go out, partner A hits 40 pull-up or 40 thrusters, 40 pull-ups. Partner B hits the same amount, but broken into 20, 12, 8. So you're gonna have to strategize like who can do one big set of each, who can do it faster broken up. Um, we thought we had a chance to like really run that thing and actually like go for broke and win the workout. There's a lot of guys who are training out there, a lot of guys who are fit, and we ended up taking 10th in that workout. We thought that might be the best one for us all weekend. Um, and then you get like a couple minutes rest and you go right into 3 minutes of max clean and jerks at 225. One that we actually thought might be our worst event of the weekend coming off of that. Partner isn't necessarily a huge lifter yet. He's still got a lot of time to get stronger in his training career. So, we ended up getting 14th, 10th, and 14th. So a 19th, a 10th, and a 14th on day one. Uh, so started the day ranked 25th, 19th after workout one, and after the workout 2 and 3, that brought us up into 15th place. So we were right dead middle. And all you can ask for after you kind of start the weekend where you are is to continue to move up and fight and grab more spots on the leaderboard. So to this point, you know, 25th in the qualifier, up to 19th after one, up to 15th after day one. We'll take that, right? That's good stuff. Get to day two, start the day with a workout that we thought we could do well at, but didn't know we would do this well. We end up taking a third place overall, second in our heat. We were in the first heat all weekend, which was a little bit tough because theoretically it was the slower heat of the two. They didn't reseed, which I think is one thing I wish they would have done. One of the critiques I have, because if you're with the faster teams, you can kind of push faster. You see guys are on your heels or going at a certain speed, and you can kind of play off of that. Whereas in this heat, we were out in front, and in the heat of it, you see yourself out in front and you're beating everybody, and your inclination is like, okay, we can slow down a little bit and save some energy, even though there's still 16 more teams to go in our case. So, um, regardless, this event was let's see. Oh, sandbag worm, two-person worm, clean and jerks. 10 of those. Drop the worm, 10 synchro burpees over the worm. Pick the worm back up, lunge it 20 feet. You lunge towards a handstand push-up wall. You do a certain amount of handstand push-ups. It went 20 in round 1, 30 in round 2, 40 in round 3, and the skill got less. So it started with strict wall facing, then strict regular, and then kipping regular. And then lunge the worm back to your start mat, and that finishes one round. You do 3 of those. By round 2, we were kicking ass, and this is a good one for me. Handstand push-ups are my jam. Murdered those. Knew that I was going to be probably the best in the competition at those. There's just not very many people that are, it's like my one home run hitter. Um, so we came off the wall and headed into round 2, and we were already out in front on the lunge, and I could tell there was nothing really slowing us down. We did 2 sets of 5 touch and goes on the worm, clean and jerks, quick break. Our burpees were fast. We even extended our lead in the burpees a lot of times, and then the lunges weren't really anything. Get to the wall, we crushed the wall pretty good. So, uh, we finished that one second in the heat, and I don't think anybody in our heat actually finished for another 40 seconds after us. So we had a pretty good idea that that was going to hold up. And it did. Only one more team beat us, and that's in the second heat. So that was sick to start day 2, or the final day, with a third place, and it felt very similar to down in Wadapalooza, where I think we got a second or a third place to start that day, with the first event. And that just when you get a top 5 finish, it it feels really good. It makes everything feel like it's worth it, and the spirits are up, and obviously that does a lot for your place on the leaderboard, grabbing 90 points in an event. And so after the first event of day 2, now 4 scores in, we had gone from 25th ranking to 19th after 1 to 15th after day 1 to 12th after the first workout on day 2. And it was very clear at this point, like, hey, we're climbing. We feel like the last one, we have a good strategy. I'll talk about that here in a second. And we could fight for top 10 here. Like, we are in striking distance to grab a top 10 position in this competition. which is really good. Like this is a regional competition. Hundreds of people signed up for this thing, and we not only qualified, but then go to the thing and get 10th. That's it's pretty cool. Speaks a lot to like our fitness and our training and how well we've been preparing for this. And we just got top 10. We secured a 10th place, solidly in 10th. We were 20 or more points ahead of 11th, but also kind of 20 or more points, right at 20 points beneath ninth. So we kind of found our 10th place right in the middle there. And the way we did that on the last one was it was a 2-score workout. This one was not 2 workouts like the other one that was back to back. It was one singular workout where two different individual pieces got a score. One person was basically always on the ski erg. The other person was working on a bar complex. There was 4 intervals, and you spent 2 intervals on basically on one, 2 intervals on the other. And total ski calories was one event or one score, and total AMRAP reps on the bar muscle up, toe to bar, and dumbbell squat cleans was another. The way it worked out was, and anybody who followed this on Instagram, I put up after day 2, we took a first and an intentional 30th on the on the AMRAP part of it. We got a first place. We won the event in ski calories. Um, and the reason is because even if you get last place in a competition like that, the way the scoring system works is the last place team still grabs like, I believe it was almost 40 points, out of a potential 100. First place team obviously gets 100 points. So those two, combined for that one workout, you end up with 140 points. To match that, even just to match that or to get more points than that by trying at both parts of that workout, which is very hard, right? If you're going to try and ball out on both, that is going to be very taxing, a lot more to handle. And there's a lot less of a chance that you're able to do really well at both than just absolutely hammering one, which is what we did, and kind of just doing what we could on the other part. Um, we would have had to have gotten like 8th on both events. And looking back after, like posthumously, the scores we would have had to put up for 8th and 8th on both, again, to equal score that would have been over 140. That would have been a very, very serious undertaking for us. And I'm not sure we could have done it. So the way we did it was great. It also allowed us to take a heat win on an event or an event win. Blew everybody away on the ski calories, and actually ended up still being really fun. It's not like we didn't try on the other part, but we did get last, which was fun. So we took a third on that first event of day 2, and then on the second event we took a first and a 30th, and that did exactly what we needed it to do to pop us up into 10th place for the entire event, which is really cool. Again, it's not like we get anything for 10th place. Uh, Interestingly enough, I kind of watched the podium ceremonies. That was like a rolling podium that was just kind of happening all day. And even like the first place of like the pro division, there's nobody standing there. No one cares about the podium. Like it's good for a picture and then you're gone. No one cares. And there'll be some of those sort of more philosophical, like, why am I doing this kind of thoughts in a podcast that'll be coming up either next week or the week after, about what I've learned from these 2 competitions I traveled to. But, um, you know, it was just fun to be able to start somewhere and continuously climb up the leaderboard over the weekend. 2 top 5s in the second day, and just challenging yourself, pushing yourself, and just the thrill of competition, that adrenaline, being able to feel that again is a huge reason why we do this. So successful, from a competitive standpoint, 100% over exceeded what we were expected to do. And, you know, is there, the question becomes, are you going to do this on a yearly basis? Are you going to come back and try this again? And there's definitely room where we could try and qualify next year. Another year of us both being better if I decided to partner with Spencer again. Um, Obviously, it depends on who does the qualifiers. Like if a way tougher field does the qualifier and it's just better front to back, then yeah, it's going to be harder. But if it's somewhat similar, I think we could come back in a year and 100% have a top 10, uh, like almost try and guarantee ourselves top 10 and really push for like a top 5 or podium spot. Yeah, I think there's a chance we could do that. I don't know if I will. Life gets in the way. Second baby is coming in 3 months, and who knows, what fitness and competition and life looks like in a year. But successful for sure. Other little notes about this whole thing: the travel day to get down there was crazy. Uh, I knew I was running it tight, and that this was going to be a with how airlines work now and the amount of delays and shit that goes on. I knew this was potentially going to be what happened, but really thought I had a chance. I won't even go into all the crazy details, but I ended up missing my connecting flight. I had a very short layover, um, and was in Washington, D.C., and was delayed out of Des Moines getting to D.C. And so I sprinted to the gate, which had the flight was already delayed in the first place for me to even have a chance. And then I missed, literally saw them close the door from about 50 meters out, and then had to, fortunately, there was a, a flight that I could one touch change in the app and get on a one last flight out of DC to Charleston that evening, but that thing did not leave until 10 p.m. in DC, and the flight I missed took off at 5:40. So we wasted a little over 4 hours just sitting, eating dinner in the DC airport. Um, Boarded the plane at 10 and took off. Got into Charleston like right at midnight and made it over the hotel. Didn't fall asleep until 1 a.m. of Saturday, which is the day we were scheduled to compete. So kind of thank goodness that we didn't have an event until that afternoon, because it was a hell of a travel day. Um, the venue was awesome. I think it's a great for how big that competition is right now and how many heats, events, and divisions they have. It fits perfectly for their size. It is a growing competition. I imagine with a growing competition comes growth in all areas, and it was certainly a smaller competition people wise. It wasn't Wadapalooza. Wadapalooza is massive. This was on a different scale, um, but the venue was great. The entire thing basically happened in two areas. One very, very, very big uh, center hall that was basically split into thirds. One third was the competition space, the floor and the stands. The way they set it up was cool. It was all one big floor, one big rig, and there was just two sides of it. There was a short side floor and a long side floor. Yeah, interesting kind of way to go about a solution for that. The middle was sort of the vendor village and all of the booths of fitness and whatever brands that wanted to come and show their stuff. And then the other third on the far side was like athlete camp, where you could go and set up for the day and put your lawn chair and drop your bag and your blanket, and that's where you could hang out in between events and stuff. That was pretty much everything. And then of course, um, next to uh, next to the large convention center, there was a ballroom that they used, or a couple ballrooms that they took the wall out of, and that served as the warm up area. Warm up area was great. They could have used a little bit of a bigger rig, but as far as cardio machines available, um, odd object stuff, the dumbbells, the kettlebells, the the worms. There was plenty for the amount of people that were always trying to warm up at once. Great stuff there. And then the short walk, like it literally connected through like a kitchen, like staff hallway right to the comp floor. So you barely had to walk at all. Quality of production was amazing for an event that a couple guys just started and I think ran out of a gym at one point and has grown into this thing. And they just I think they just work at a CrossFit gym normally. Um, an event to that size and that has that many moving parts is done really, really well. from check-in and what like to the merch sales and where everything was set up and signage that they had and the scheduling and the communication and the warm-up area and judges knowing what they're supposed to be doing, people knowing where they're supposed to be at what times, all this kind of stuff. I think operationally everything went really, really well. Um, Vendor wise, I thought the vendors that were there were all really, really great. There wasn't like a single booth that you walk by and you're like, I'm not interested in that at all. So I think the quality was really high. The quantity was kind of lower than I thought there would be. I would guess there was maybe 20 to 25 vendors. That might even be high. There's a couple of really big booths, like the Wild South, which is the apparel sponsor, the main title sponsor of the Fittest of the Coast. You had Strike Movement, which is like a shoe company. You had Valor Fitness, which was like the equipment sponsor. Those are like the three biggest ones. And then, yeah, you probably had like 12 to 15 other booths or vendors. Um, I like it because for those vendors, it means that the spectators and the athletes, it's more saturated. Like more of the people who are walking around's time is going to be spent on you individually, as opposed to, oh, there's 100 different booths. I'm going to pick a couple that I want to go to and potentially purchase from or like interact with. Um, but at the same time, it keeps it like a small feeling thing. So if they ever want to get bigger and really make it crazy, and potentially, I would say from a financial side, make more money because those sponsors pay to come and get a spot at your event. Um, I was actually a little surprised at how few there were, but there is some pros to that as well. Uh, Fat Ash cookies, by the way, unbelievable. Search that on Instagram. I had 3 of them over the weekend. They're insane. First Form, like I don't like expensive protein. I probably still won't buy. I definitely won't become a First Form protein guy like daily, but the salted peanut butter with their Ignite carbs, um, I had a they were mixing up free protein shakes after every workout for anyone who wanted one. I had one after every single workout and it brought me back to life. My God. And it was delicious. Rain was there, similar to Wadapalooza. So sick to be able to just walk up and grab free Reigns energy drinks. They're delicious. And a couple other good vendors were there as well. And then workouts specifically. I kind of went through them. I'm not going to go exactly over what the like rep by rep was for each workout, but I would say in totality, it was a well programmed event, not a exceptionally programmed event. It was upper body heavy. There's a lot of upper body. I mean, we're talking uh, f- first workout was handstand walking, um, and 80 reps of dumbbell or kettlebell um, deadlifts, which light up your delts and your shoulders as you hold those for that amount of reps. Into the handstand walking. The second event was almost all shoulders and upper body. Thrusters, so you're pressing out overhead. Pull ups, you're now pulling under fatigue into clean and jerks. You're jerking heavyweight overhead. So again, just tons of overhead and upper body pressing. Into, hey, you smoked your upper body the first day. Guess what we're going to start with on Sunday? Worm clean and jerks, burpees, both pressing movements. And when you lunge the worm to the wall, you're gonna do handstand push-ups, which are the sort of the linchpin of the whole thing. So, and then the last one, you're reaching overhead to ski calories and you're pressing out muscle ups at the top. So it was upper body heavy, but I think it was still pretty well-rounded. I personally, and this is my nitpick critique of the whole weekend, I personally don't love how it was scheduled. Um, the events were the events were 4 events. 2 of them were double score, and that makes it so that you fly all the way down there, and a lot of people are local, so it's not as bad, but for someone like me to be interested and come do that, I did 4 events, paid a lot of money to go and do 4 events, which isn't crazy, um, for 6 scores, and those 4 events were shoved into a 20-hour window. We started at like 3:30 on Saturday afternoon, and we're pretty much done by 12:30 on Sunday. So like a 21-hour window. It's hard to like make a big trip out of that and like justify it. But there's plenty of people local or like regionally that would come and drive or don't have to make such a big trip out of it to make that happen. So it was fun, good times, and we learned a lot. You'll hear a lot more about it, uh, generally philosophically, from a competition macro view perspective again on that podcast I'm going to do maybe next week. Came home, hit no travel troubles on the way home, and was able to, before I had to go pick up my daughter from daycare, stop and hit my first disc golf round ish kind of play around of 2025. I threw some of the new discs that I have at a shorter course that was on the way home that I've never gone to before. Definitely going to be going out there for a full round when it gets nicer. Lots to work on and get better at disc golf in the new year as well. I got a call in 2 minutes, 2, 3 minutes here to try and get a sponsor for the actual podcast that I do. So we got to hop off here, but that is the Fittest of the Coast recap. And glad I did it. Fun experience. Maybe we'll do it next year. See you next time.